Joining us now, former Assistant Attorney General Jonathan Kanter. He served as the DOJ's Antitrust Division Chief in the Biden administration, which apparently is still in charge. He's now a CNBC. No, you say no. He's now a CNBC contributor. Antitrust, not much that we can tell. We don't know, but not much of a change so far, especially if J.D. Vance has his way. Thinking about raising marginal rates on top earners. And we've got blanket tariffs, Democrat tariffs around the world right now that they saw. So you must be happy.
Well, there's one key difference. That key difference is
people were doing well.
People were doing really well.
Yeah, from from running $2 trillion deficits when you didn't need to after the pandemic was already over. No one's income went, no one's wages went up because of inflation. It wasn't that great. Now we got the worst.
Would you rather have that economy or this economy?
This is a work in progress. It's not even 100 days yet, Jonathan. No, I've got my own problems. You can see I just said that. But let's talk antitrust. Do you think the environment has completely changed 180 degrees, or are we at some kind of hybrid of what Biden had?
Now, the changes are going to be incremental. So antitrust is this, in one sense, it's the most interesting thing and the least interesting thing at the same time. It's the most interesting thing because it's an area where Democrats and Republicans actually agree. I had tremendous amount of support from Republicans on the Hill, and a lot of young conservatives believe that concentrated economic power is a danger, and that if you want to pursue a deregulatory environment, you need a backstop, and that backstop would be a functioning market with healthy competition, where that will keep people in check. And so I think there will be some incremental shift, but it's going to be minor. And I think this has been a trend, even going back to my friend Macon Delrahim, where steadily we're seeing more receptivity to antitrust enforcement.
Which means what to CEOs, business leaders who are trying to evaluate what they can and can't do?
It means large-scale strategic M&A still has risk. Although I will say, going back to the economy, that the real difficulty in M&A now is pricing.
Yeah.
I don't know how people price deals with so much uncertainty, but the large, massive strategic M&A that will consolidate, 4 companies going to 3 or even 5 companies going to 4 are going to get a lot of scrutiny. But even under our administration, we blocked less than 1% of deals. There was still historic deal volume. It's just you didn't see the major transformative deals that would sort of consolidate mergers to, or consolidate industries to 1 or 2 or 3.
Would you take issue with someone that said many times Lena Khan would do something knowing it would be held up in courts, and by the time it really didn't think that there was merit to the case, but knew that she could delay it long enough to where it wouldn't happen? And it's not that, at least, is supposedly not going to happen anymore. The gentleman on said, "No, I'm not going to do it that way."
I guess I take issue with whether that happened. We at the DOJ did hundreds of investigations. We prioritized, and so we were very careful. A lot of the smaller deals that had no issues, we would just wait. We would make sure they went through. We didn't get in the way. We used our resources on the big issues: Ticketmaster, RealPage. Some of the airline deals that we felt would have a real impact on consumers and the economy, and then we essentially let it get out of the way for everyone else. And so I don't think we were really taking as long as people suggest.
There are some industries that are in such disarray, and I think of media and entertainment in particular, where new technology has disrupted. You've got streaming services like a Netflix or an Amazon or an Apple that have a lot of money that they can put behind it. And the old line media companies are struggling from it. I don't get the sense that this administration is going to take kindly to consolidation in that industry. I don't necessarily get the sense that under the Biden administration it was something they would have looked kindly at. And I just wonder why. If you're in an old line industry, not just media or entertainment, but any old line industry that's getting seriously disrupted by technology.
It really depends. And so we had a book publisher merger that we ended up blocking successfully because it would harm advances to professional authors, which we thought was really important. At the same time, industry does need to react and adjust to these technological changes. I mean, media, you're right, Netflix, Apple, Amazon, they're becoming the new
Jonathan,
NBC,
you gotta
ABC,
stop
Fox.
talking. Look what you did to the market. We're down, now we're down almost, we were almost unchanged. Now there are there is something. What is the China flash at this point? China responding? Won't see it. We're going to have it, but we're trying to do a live show. But something happened. It wasn't you.
All right. Thank you.
We'll get more on that because it just happened. Meta.
Here's what it is.
Yep.
The China Finance Ministry is now saying that it will impose additional tariffs on U.S. goods starting April 10th.
So trade war.
They're looking at, it's pretty brief. 84%. So, yeah, this is game on. This
We're
is what
at 104.
we were kind of expecting. The trade war ratcheting up, and unless there's something to wind that back,
Yeah, you can. So we got 70. Fiji is ready to talk. So we got 70 countries that are ready to negotiate. But China.
Well, this is the problem. China's not going to go gently.
No,
right?
I know.
And I think we underestimate their willingness, not just to withstand long-term harm in their own economy, like you were talking about this morning. They don't have the same political system.
Right.
But I think we're underestimating their ability to galvanize other nations. And one of the things that really concerns me about our approach here is if we're going to take on China, we should do it with our allies in tow. We need Canada, we need Europe, we need major industrialized nations to essentially to organize around fighting China.
Not driving them into China's arms.
We're driving them into China's arms, especially on tech.
Yeah.
Right now that China has a DeepSeek and an AI base, the question is whose AI are people going to build on? And I'm really worried that we're going to see Europe and other countries welcome China's tech more than ours, and that can have a significant negative impact on our economy.
What's the total now? So they went up. Remember, they went up 34 after we did some.
So 34 and 84 is.
What they started at what? They had tariffs on us already, and then they did an additional 34. This is above 104, isn't it? This is higher than what we're doing. How about Meta? Mark Zuckerberg has gone to great lengths. Do you think anything changes on that? When's that start? Monday?
Yeah, it would be borderline scandalous if.
Oh, gee, that would never happen.
Yeah, Zuckerberg went to the White House and then wound up with a settlement. And so, law enforcement's supposed to be independent.
We've seen similar things almost happen, haven't we?
Well, I think that yes.
Suddenly TikTok is.
I think exactly, and so, but law enforcement, when law enforcement becomes transactional, then the rule of law.
Hard to prove.
Well, it's not that hard if you look at people walking into the White House.
So, and you think that I don't know. You think Meta has to worry about Instagram or whatever? What's this one?
Yeah,
what would they need to do? What's a remedy?
The remedy here would be, breaking up Instagram. I think, the FTC has survived their case so far, and interestingly, they have Judge Boasberg, who's the judge that has been taking on President Trump in other contexts.
So what is you put? What's Instagram? You put pictures online or something? How does that?
It's how you become an influencer, Joe.
See, I have no influence. Do you have an Instagram account?
I lurk. I don't post.
You like to watch.
Well, check, please.
Does this benefit the Democrats? Because to this point, the Democrats have not really had a cohesive message, have not pulled things together.
Yes, if they get it right. And I think a lot of what we've talked about, and Joe, I think I've agreed a lot with what you said about the hollowing out of the middle of the country.
Don't tell me that.
And so the Democrats, again, need a coherent plan for how we're going to reindustrialize our economy, how we're going to prepare our workforce for robotic-based manufacturing, how we're going to build a business for a modern economy. That is going to be determinative of whether Democrats succeed. But yeah, there's a huge opening. People are really upset. And I asked, Wall Street, for example, which voted for Trump, this is what you voted for. And he's doing what he said he would do. Yeah.
Larry Summers was talking today saying it's going to be 2 million jobs potentially lost because of the tariffs hurting the economy.
It was the art of the deal. It wasn't blanket tariffs across the entire globe. It was the art of the deal. That still may be coming. Let's not. It's still early.
But then how does that square with onshoring?
Because if you go to 0-0
from taxes to pay for your tax cuts,
it invites labor arbitrage, right? And so if you go to 0-0, then there's every incentive.
You're still not going to be here.
No,
I know it's 0-0.
Exactly. And so, that's why you need a coherent plan. But also, tariffs really work when you have a plan for rebuilding our economy, investing in research and science, robotic factories, training a new workforce to be the shift managers in those factories, really rebuilding our middle of the country, and then you use stage tariffs surgically to support that.